So we go to changing age identities. Age identities are also changing in response to social changes linked to globalization and increased choice. For the older people, for many older people in developed countries, there are greater opportunities in later life than existed for previous generations. Pensions, better healthcare, and other developments mean more years of active life after retirement. Pensions in particular have given older people financial power they did not have in the past. The spending power is known as in the UK as the grey pound, and has led to a range of industries and services aimed at older people. For example, some type of holidays such as cruises are aimed mainly at people in this age group. Some older people have also adopted new technology, often a way of staying in contact via social media with relatives who live far away. So for older people, so now we're going to age identity, which globalization and increased choices have changed. So for older people, they don't have access to these things that we have access to during when they were at our age. They don't have access to them. But with globalization and increased choices and the affordability, they can now have access to whatever we have access to. So that is the point they're making here. So due to how their level of income is also increasing based on state pension, government pension, like they have gratuities, this allows businesses to start thinking about services that they could render to them, that they will pay for. So because these services are rendered to them, it means they can have access to whatever we have access to. So the only thing is they make it a older fashion for them, but they have access to them. So older people could get iPhone 16 if they want to get it. No one is going to stop them from getting it because they can afford it. So they can afford it, they have the money for it. So because they have the money for it, it's also increasing their choice. They can have access to it. At the same time, rising life expectancy and lower birth rates means that the population of the developed countries are aging. So the average age is going up, so that older people represent a growing proportion of the total population. This is referred to as aging population. Although older people are healthier and more active than many in the past, the last few years of life are still, for many people, marked by declining health and a growing reliance on care and support. This is likely to be provided by a combination of family and state. So the other stage here is rising life expectancy. Why is the life expectancy increasing? That means the likely age people are expected to live over their years. So why is life expectancy increasing? Life expectancy is increasing because nowadays there's better health care, there's health awareness, there's income. People have money now. They can have whatever they need, they could get it. Through health care. So this allows the older people to live longer. And as a result of that, they are able to witness the latest advancements in technology, the latest advancement or structure in the economy. That's for some older people. Some older people, the third paragraph, some older people take up new challenges and continue to contribute to family and community life in many ways. However, concerns about the cost of governments of pensions has led to recent increases in the age at which people can retire, so that working life is being extended beyond the previous expected retirement age. This means that some people who in the past would have retired are still working and contributing to the economy by, for example, paying taxes, and this is changing perception about when old age begins. So, in a nutshell, about age before now has certain expectation, but these days age is a number. That is the point they're making. So here, look at the last paragraph. They talked about continuous government spending on pension because of people that are retired. So as a result of that, government start thinking about increasing the retirement age. So by increasing the retirement age, it means people will still be active. Normally, there's people that are supposed to be retired those days are still active, working. So that makes it difficult for us to say for us to tag them as being old because they are still active. So that is the point about old age. So it becomes difficult for us to say they are old because old age becomes a number based on the fact that they are still active as we do. That is about old age people. I think old age is clear. Then for the young people and children, there are fewer children in most developed countries as a result of falling birth and fertility rates. As a consequence, children are highly valued and societies have become more child-centered. As with older people, a growing range of industries and services are aimed at children and allow them the possibility of making consumer choices that contribute to shaping their identities. So, for young people and children, the society is child-centered. It means more care, more focus is on the children. As a result of that, a lot of businesses, a lot of services are rendered because of children. That is the first paragraph there. And this shape their identity. So, in as much as this service is rendered to you, you'll be considered as a child. In developing countries, the age profile of population is very different. With far more children and young people in Africa, 77% of the population is under 35, a total of around 770 million people. Many of these young people have or will soon have access to social media via mobile phones and will have greater choices for shaping their identities. They will be more aware of lifestyles and living standards in the developed world. Without strong economic growth, it is likely that many young African people will aspire to migrate to developed countries to improve their life chances. So, the second paragraph is talking about the children and the young people, especially in Africa, what they have access to. So, with globalization, they have access to social media. So, with social media, with the possibility of accessing social media, they are exposed to what happens outside their country to children of their age. So if they find out that, these things that the children of our peers have access to, we don't have access to it, then they would be forced to move out and start seeking for a better situation for themselves. And that will shape their identity. Do you get the point there? Do you get it or not, please? Okay. So the social changes have led to the period of adolescence being extended. In developed countries in the mid-20th century, it was common for people to start full-time work in the mid to late, are you there? Yes. In the mid to late teenage years and to marry in their early 20s. In most developed countries, the period of compulsory education has been extended, while at the same time, many more young people go into higher education, such as studying for a degree at a university. This means that young people tend to be dependent on their parents for longer, with more living at home until well into adulthood. So they do not gain independence until they are older than previous generations were. In some countries, this situation has been added to by lack of jobs for young people and by the rising cost of renting or buying accommodation, which pushes young people towards staying in their parents' home. These trends have also pushed up the ages at which people first get married and which they have their first child. So the last paragraph is talking about societal changes and economical situation, which has made it difficult for children to become adults, voluntarily or involuntarily. So it becomes difficult for you to say they are child or they are adult because they are still with their parents. Their age has passed it, but based on the fact that they don't have jobs, getting accommodation is expensive. These things would force them to still stay behind. So they still stay behind, and because they are staying behind, they will still be cared for by their parents. And being caring for by the parents means you are still a child. So it becomes difficult for us to differentiate between a child and an adult because of economic situation. Do you understand? So that is the point about that. Any question about it? So based on that fact that you still stay with your parents, it means you cannot be free. You cannot have that independent to get married or to have a child, because you will still be considered as being a child, because you can't stay and do things. If you cannot have a home for yourself, then how do you want to handle a family? So you're still a child because you are still under your parents. So you see, it's an adult or she's an adult, but for the fact that he or she cannot afford those things an adult can afford, they will still consider him or her as a child. So that is an hybrid or a new age identity. So he's a child. He's not a child, but he's considered to be a child because of what he cannot afford. Any question about that? So that ends gender and that ends chapter 1.